For BYU to remain undefeated, the Cougars defense is going to need to recreate the magic they had a season ago against the Arizona Wildcats.
You are Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast on the BYU Cougars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On Cougars, your daily podcast focused on the BYU Cougars. I'm Jake Hatch, executive producer of the KSL Sports Zone in Salt Lake City, Utah, and a 14-year credentialed media member at BYU. I am your resident expert and insider, your host here on this podcast, and as always, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. All right, coming up on today's show, we are going to talk BYU's defense against Arizona's offense. I think it's a key battle if BYU hopes to win this game that we'll dig into. We'll also talk about some of the injury report matters that have come out in the last day with the initial player availability report, none bigger than obviously the status of Jack Kelly, who is listed as doubtful. How much does that impact BYU's chances in this contest, as well as other players of note? We'll get into that, and then we'll finish up today's show with a guy who's been a breakout star so far this season. That is safety Falatau Satuala. I had a great opportunity to catch up with him yesterday after BYU football practice, and he'll explain what's led to him having such a prolific start to the season. It's all ahead on today's show, and it's all brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com right now or download the FanDuel app. Your first $5 bet if you're a new customer, if it wins, $300 in bonus bets in your account just like that. It's all courtesy of your friends over at FanDuel. All right, let's dive right in on today's show. Let's talk BYU's defense. Now, any of you who remember last year's game against Arizona will remember we had big noon kickoff in town. Obviously, it was a big stage for BYU, and the nice part was BYU's defense, it came to play. Despite a relatively slow start, if you remember, Arizona led that game 7-0 after the end of the first quarter, and it seemed like, okay, where's this thing going to go? Well, BYU got on a roll at that point, and more impactfully, BYU's defense got after Noah Fifita and the Arizona offense and made life very, very difficult for the Cats. In fact, in that game, if you go back and look at the stats in it, Noah Fifita was forced to throw the ball 52 times. He completed 26 at an even 50%, an average of 5.3 yards per attempt, 275 yards, 1 touchdown, but most notably 3 interceptions, one of which obviously Isaiah Glasker housed for his pick 6. If BYU wants to beat the Arizona Wildcats this Saturday, now this time in Tucson versus that game last year being here in Provo, it is going to be imperative that BYU recreate what they did a season ago against Arizona. The nice part is there's a whole lot of dudes who had a lot of success against Arizona last year who are returning this year. None more so, I feel like, than guys like Isaiah Glasker. You look on the back end of BYU secondary, guys like Tanner Wall. They saw and felt and went through what it takes to down a team like Arizona. Same time, Arizona looks like a completely different team. So remember, they had bottomed out, it felt like, last season. There were a lot of thoughts that Brent Brennan might be coaching for his job. Well, right now, Arizona's 4-1, and you can argue the schedule, parameters, and all that type of stuff. But their offense, it looks far more whole than it did a season ago. It felt like last year, and Kelly Papinga kind of pointed this out yesterday, is that Arizona's offense a season ago was essentially Noah Fifita trying to feed the ball to T-Mac, or the guy they call it's Tataroa McMillan, or Tet McMillan, who's now in the NFL. As I have been paying attention to this year for BYU and going up against Arizona, it is not just Tet McMillan and anybody else. The thing is, the Cougars this year are going to have more weapons to cover because Arizona, and more importantly, Noah Fifita as their quarterback, have been distributing the ball to a lot of different receivers, backs, and tight ends. And that is going to be an interesting thing for BYU to counter this year versus last year, where it felt like they were bracket, if not double covering Tet McMillan and essentially forcing anybody else, whether it was Noah Fifita or anybody else for the Cats, to beat them in that game in Provo. So that's the difference in this game, it feels like, is it's a far more balanced and, I guess, more well-rounded Arizona offense that BYU has to defend against. The biggest question I have in this is we saw that Jack Kelly, I'm just going to spoil a surprise, he's listed as doubtful. Now, it shouldn't be a surprise to you guys because that injury report is available to the public. You can go to big12sports.com Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday nights about 8 p.m. Mountain Time. Injury availability reports are posted. You can see exactly what we see as media members. And not having Jack Kelly and his ability to really force the issue, push the pocket, create havoc in the backfield, and make a guy like Noah Fifita uncomfortable, That's going to be a problem for BYU because are they going to have to blitz more to create that? Do they have somebody that's got the same ability to, as I mentioned, rush the passer like a guy like Jack Kelly has been from his weak side linebacker position? It's a question that needs to be answered, and it will have to be answered early on in this game. You can ill afford to allow a guy like Fifita to sit in the pocket and pick you apart. He has proven this year very capable of doing that. 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. His touchdown interception ratio is exceptional. 1,341 yards. He's completing a shade under 65% of his passes. He is going to make it very difficult for BYU if they cannot get pressure on him. Now, as Kelly Papinga pointed out yesterday, sacks may be the most overrated thing in defensive metrics because we all like to associate sacks with a dominant defense. As he points out, it's more about, do you keep points off the scoreboard? And whether that's creating turnovers via interceptions, which BYU's been pretty exceptional at, while they haven't necessarily had as much sack yardage or sacks overall as you might like, BYU's defense has been downright dominant. And this is a big opportunity for them to take yet another step forward and legitimize themselves in the eyes of Cougar fans, in the national media, and beyond. It is a big opportunity staring the Cougars in the face here, but it's a different type of beast they're facing when it comes up this year against the Arizona Wildcats. Because as I mentioned, I was looking at not the depth charts, the box scores from the last 2 games for Arizona. I counted, and I may be off by 1 or 2, but my quick math was 11 different players catching passes from Noah Fifita. That's pretty impressive. That means he's distributing the ball to a lot of different players, and that makes it all the more difficult for BYU to have their bases covered because you can put 5 defensive backs on the field, but you got to be able to hold up in coverage, and that's the question. How long can BYU's secondary realistically hold up against this Arizona wide receiver core, tight ends, and running backs without a pass rush that can consistently provide the pressure they need to win this game? BYU made Arizona one-dimensional last year because they got behind, they were forced to throw the football, and Arizona, simply put, they struggled to run the football at all against BYU. Last year, the grand total, rushing-wise, for Arizona in the game was a grand total of 114 yards, and that feels like a little bit high from what I remember of that game, but they very much made it. So Noah Fifita was trying to play catch-up, and the offense was trying to play catch-up all game long. You got to force the issue once again, and without Jack Kelly, I've got questions about where that pass rush consistently is going to come from for BYU. Can it be Isaiah Glasser? Can it be Ciale Serra from the linebacker position? Or can guys like Vili Puha, Bodie Schoonover, Hunter Clegg, on down the list of the different defensive ends on BYU's roster, can they step up in this moment and say, you know what? This is our responsibilities to force the issue, to bring pressure off the edge, and make a guy like Noah Fifita uncomfortable, a la what happened a season ago. We'll see how it all shakes out. But once again, I'll reiterate, if BYU wants to win this game at Arizona, BYU's defense has to essentially play the same type of game, if not better, than they did a season ago. And that would go a long way to helping the Cougars collect another road win and stay perfect on the season with a sterling 6-0 record. All right, coming up next, injuries. We already talked about Jack Kelly, but there's other injuries that actually have somewhat good news for BYU that could help them in this game against the Arizona Wildcats. Who are they? Why are they important to pay attention to? Because these player availability reports will play out over the next few days leading up to kickoff in what could be a very soggy Tucson. I also want to weigh in on that a little bit, the weather forecast. We'll get to all that next as we roll on right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. The real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. The Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support, make the whole process smoother, and you can join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line, all for you. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use the promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. And once again, take that promo code SH5 and save yourself 5% from our friends over at Supply House. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you do not want to miss. New customers right now, you can place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the site. The best part about FanDuel is they have got you covered no matter how you want to go out your sports betting. Over-unders, player props, in-game betting, futures odds. Doesn't matter what you're interested in, parlays and the like. They've got it all in the app or online on their website. It makes watching football that much more exciting. We got a little something extra riding on the action, whether you're a casual fan or love diving into the stats. FanDuel makes the game day experience that much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com or download the FanDuel app today and get started. Once again, that $5 bet can net you $300 in bonus bets. It's all courtesy of your friends over at FanDuel. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Hope you all are doing fantastic on this Thursday. Now, BYU put out their player availability report, and there were some minor surprises. I don't think necessarily they're revolutionary because when Jack Kelly got injured against West Virginia, my initial reaction was, wow, is that the last time we see Jack Kelly in a BYU uniform? Now, reports have since surfaced, and if you're a Locked On Cougars Insider Group member, you have a better idea of where things stand at this current time. Just a little bit of a plug there to join. But you look at the player availability report, and to list him as doubtful is actually somewhat good news in some respect, because when it comes to these player availability reports, if you're declared out, they expect you to miss the game, simply put. Doubtful leaves that small, ever so small glimmer of hope that should his arm or shoulder, whatever the injury is, recover fast enough, he could, in theory, be available against the Arizona Wildcats. Now, he'd have to make some pretty marked improvement on the player availability thing today and tomorrow to have a chance to do that. Because doubtful, if you want to use kind of a parlance, it's like 25% or worse that they're going to play. So speaking like it's 25% they play, 75% they don't play. Move up to questionable, which is where a guy like Tommy Prassis is currently listed. That's like a 50-50 shot at this point in the week. As I mentioned, these are all very fluid, as we will have player availability reports coming out tonight, tomorrow night. There will also be a final one. I believe it's a 90 minutes before kickoff. So expect that around 4:30 Mountain Time on Saturday with the final word on who's available and who's not for BYU. Some of you reached out and were concerned about the number of linebackers on BYU's availability report that were listed as probable. Those included Siale Acera, Miles Hall, and I think maybe the most noteworthy in Isaiah Glasker. Here's the deal about probable. The expectation is that you're probably going to play 75% or better chance. And as I mentioned, it's a fluid situation. We'll see where these names end up because they could quickly move off the probable list. And if they move off that today or tomorrow, that means they're expected to be full go and available. I would fully anticipate guys like Isaiah Glasker and Siale Acera playing in this game because I can tell you, having sat in that press box at Lavelle Edwards Stadium last Saturday, kind of keeping my eye on the sideline and watching Isaiah Glasker kind of just move around the sideline and try and, I guess, occupy his time while his teammates were out there in the second half, you can tell that's a kid. He absolutely loves the game of football. He craves being on that field, and it was probably eating him up inside, the fact that he was not allowed to play in that game. And in fact, as Kalani Sitake mentioned, with Jack Kelly out on the hands team when that not the special teams was called upon for the onside kick attempt by West Virginia. Well, Jack Kelly's unavailable. You know who his backup is? Isaiah Glasker. And apparently there was an argument. Hey, let's put somebody else in there. And Isaiah's like, no, I'm getting out there and I'm playing. Isaiah Glasker, to me, is the epitome of what BYU wants their defenders to be. We talked with Justin Kirkland yesterday, BYU's nose tackle, and he talked about the fact that he's been on some pretty good defenses during his collegiate career to this point. He said the one thing that stands out about BYU is that every guy he feels like on BYU's defense gives their all, and I think he used the term sells out to make plays. They are putting their heart and mind and body quite literally on the line when they go out there. And yes, Isaiah Glasker, I think there's a very valid reason why they rested him in that game against West Virginia. A, because they had that game in hand, no matter how somebody make you feel about a 14-point margin. And B, I'm sure he's beat up. I talk often on this podcast about how violent this game is. I didn't get to play it past the high school level. And I can tell you, I was pretty messed up playing high school football. I can only imagine how much worse it gets at the collegiate level. And then, heck, moving on to the NFL. I have had people compare what players go through at the NFL level to going through a car crash weekly, and somehow 6 days later you suit back up, you go out there, and you play the game you love. I fully anticipate Isaiah Glasker playing in this game against Arizona and bringing the passion, bringing the pain, and showing every bit why he is the top-rated linebacker according to Pro Football Focus in the Western United States, and is that by a significant margin. Is PFF the end-all, be-all? Absolutely not. There's a lot of people who like to say PFF's absolute garbage, but it is a metric to determine who the better players are in college football. And Isaiah Glasker, he is one of, if not the best at his position, at least Western, I guess the Mountain and Pacific time zone in the United States of America. It absolutely had to be killing him on the inside to have the coaches say, hey, we love you. We're doing what we feel is in the best interest of yourself, sitting you out in the second half against West Virginia. But I'm sure they told him next week, go out there, make plays, and wreak havoc. I expect him to lead this defense. He has been a leader since the last couple of seasons. He really kind of emerged on the scene. He's a bona fide NFL draft prospect, and I didn't want to spend all the time talking about Isaiah Glasker, but I think he's kind of the epitome of what BYU hopes that every player on this defense is, and what Justin Kirkland believes that they are, is that, as I said, every guy goes out there and gives their absolute all for the guy next to them. Kalani Sitake has talked about it. He wants all 11 guys on defense to do their 111th. Too often, players who feel like maybe they can't trust the guy next to them will try and make the play of another player, and it causes issues because you may have missed an assignment, or you may be trying to do too much and you overrun a play. I look at this game against Arizona as absolutely critical for BYU's defense to remain on the same page, play with a steady force, and more importantly, trust that their guys around them, led by Jay Hill, are going to make the plays, the adjustments, and do their part to help you have success out there on the football field. I expect Isaiah Glasker will be barking at his guys because, as I mentioned, watching him from the press box, and I wasn't like wholly focused on him last week, but I can tell you in that second half, he was kind of prowling the sideline, looking for almost felt like any excuse. If a player got dinged up, he was going to run in there before the coaches could say, no. I love that about that. And that's why the player availability thing, I don't fret it too much until Saturday, because that's really when you know who's in, who's out, and the like. But at the same time, BYU's not dealing with what Arizona's dealing with. If you may have seen it yesterday, Kean Burnett, who's a former 4-star prospect, he's a tight end, he's played for Arizona and had some moments in his career, but really never any consistent success. He announced he's redshirting this season and sitting out the rest of the year for a 4-1 football team. Can you imagine having the gall to walk out on your teammates in the middle of for Arizona, a nice bounce back season to this point, and saying, you know what, guys, I'm out? That would not go over well with anybody. And the nice part is, everything I understand about BYU, there's no hint of that. There's no hint of that. I guess you call it entitlement, whatever you want to term it, to have that happening in the BYU locker room. I look at this as a big opportunity for BYU. It is a 6-game gauntlet upcoming, beginning with Arizona on Saturday, that's going to absolutely test everything BYU's got. Are there going to be inevitably more injuries picked up by players for BYU? Sure. But the good news is there are some guys healing up. Jonathan Cabella, for example, is listed as probable for this game. Some of you might recall, some of you may not. Going into training camp, actually about halfway through training camp, he was the odds-on favorite to be BYU starting nickelback, and they were really believing that he was going to be a force in that position. Well, he picks up an injury in training camp, necessitates surgery, and he's been diligently trying to get his way back out there, and it appears this week may be his season debut, essentially halfway through the campaign. That is good news if you can get guys like him back. We obviously talked about Justin Kirkland. He returned not too long ago, and he figures to get better and better as he gets more and more engrossed in the system and gets back to his playing style and the like. I like the way that BYU is approaching this. They're trying to be smart about protecting their guys, making sure that they're in the best positions to succeed, but also at the same time, understand that they need to play as one, play as a unit, and go out there and have the success as a team versus as an individual. All right, we'll finish up today's show with a guy who I think could have a major impact on this game against Arizona, because he's got the ability to make plays, it feels like, at every level in BYU's defense. And in fact, he's playing at multiple positions right now. That's Fifita, a guy that I have been very, very impressed with so far this season. Had kind of an up and down freshman campaign last year, but this year very much looks like he could be the future of the safety position for BYU. How has he done it? What has he done to make himself such an indispensable part of Jay Hill's rotation? We'll talk with him exclusively next, right here on Locked On Cougars. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. They craft cars for those who do more than simply move. They deliver confidence with every single ride with more IIHF top safety pick awards than anybody else as of August 2025. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. The best part is you make everyday drives feel like anything but, with some smooth handling to intuitive controls in every Mazda vehicle. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost every season as well. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. It's all courtesy of your friends over at Mazda. Move and be moved. Today's show is also brought to you by our friends over at Quo. They're formerly known as our friends at OpenPhone. One of the tools that helps make a huge difference for your business owners is Quo, formerly OpenPhone. It's the same great phone business system you've heard me talk about before, just with a new name. And here's why it matters. Every missed call is money left on the table for you as a business owner. When every customer conversation counts, you need a phone system that keeps you connected 24/7. Quo is the #1 business phone system that streamlines customer communication. It works right through an app on your phone or on your computer, so no more carrying two phones or relying on a landline to get the job done. Their built-in AI agent is a game changer, answers after-hour calls, captures leads, and helps keep your business moving forward even when you're off the clock. So you can see why the more than 90,000 businesses are trusting Quo, formerly OpenPhone. Get it started free and get 20% off your first 6 months at quo.com/lockedoncollege. That's QUO.com/lockedoncollege. And if you got an existing phone number or phone numbers with another service, Quo will port them over at no extra charge. Quo, no missed calls, and of course, no missed customers. Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. Had a great opportunity yesterday to be out at BYU football practice, and always appreciate the chance to interact with players and coaches and the like to get a feel for the BYU football program. Now, I had a great opportunity yesterday to catch up with Fifita. The former Bountiful Red Hawk has been a revelation this season. Remember, he had that safety earlier on this year against Stanford. He has been a force in the backfield to get in a sack against Colorado. He's also been very capable of intercepting passes. There was the one against Stanford that helped seal that win for BYU over the Cardinal. All plays made by number 11, which is the number he wears on his uniform. And I wanted to ask him just about how he's gone about this, because he was a guy who was a highly, highly touted prospect, one of the most highly touted prospects in recent memory for BYU football as a 4-star prospect. He went to I think it was still the Army All-American game at the time. It might have been the Navy All-American. They've changed the branding in the last couple of years, but he has been on the national stage for quite some time. And when he committed to BYU, it was an absolutely big deal because they beat the Utah Utes head-to-head in that recruiting battle. Well, the nice part is he very much looks like the future at the safety position for BYU. Tanner Wall, this is his final season of eligibility. Could a guy like Fifita inherit his position at free safety? Sure. Could he also play strong safety? Absolutely, because in fact, he's playing bull. So without further ado, here is my exclusive one-on-one conversation with Fifita talking about that and a whole lot more. You've been really breaking out early this season. What do you credit that to?
Just great coaching and great teammates. I mean, Coach Hill and Coach Gavin Fowler both have pushed me a lot this offseason, and then also competing with all the other dudes in the safety room. Like, we got some great dudes, so all the credit goes to just being able to compete with them, and then also I think having a whole year in the system also and being able to get bigger and stronger and faster has helped a lot too.
I've heard from people it can take a little while to get Jay Hill's defense down, and him being your position coach, can that add to that?
Oh yeah, we hear about every part of the defense, so it definitely helps a lot. Just learning every day, we hear new things from him just because of how smart he is, and so having him in our room and him coaching us every day is definitely a big help.
How is he as a position coach versus when he's being your defensive coordinator? Does that make sense?
I think he kind of holds the safeties to a little higher standard, being our position coach and then also the DC. But at the same time, like he's like willing to be there for us a little more, and he understands us more and is able to help us like get to where we want and achieve our goals a little more personally over the rest of the defense, I feel like.
Tanner Wall's been in the system quite a while, and he's been obviously a standout for quite a while. How has he helped impact your development in this program?
Yeah, he was like the person I would just always go to with questions. Him and Talon Alfrey, like two smart dudes. So, just every time I had a question, and they're the first person I'm going off to the sideline asking. And so they've definitely helped me learn mentally. Then also physically, like over the summer, just competing against those two and seeing them lift and how hard they work has definitely motivated me and pushed me to be better too.
We've seen you play at both strong and at free. And I know I asked you in a media session not too long ago about like the difference between the two and developing that. How difficult has that been to be able to morph between two different positions?
Honestly, I feel like the more I've learned it, it makes actually playing defense easier. Especially being able to play like both sides with the other safeties who play strong and free. Like based off how the offense lines up, we can disguise a lot better, knowing that one of us can roll down one way, roll the other way, like. So I think it makes it easier and more complicated on the offense trying to understand what we're trying to do when we both can know what strong and free is doing.
You're a pretty tall safety, and safeties usually are more compact dudes. How do you feel like your length helps you at that position?
Just being able to cover more ground, I would say, getting a little bit like bigger passing windows, being able to reach for the ball more. And then also just on tackles, having a little more length to be able to reach out and grab. So I think that helps a lot, yeah.
You were a guy who played both ways in high school. Do you feel like your understanding of offensive philosophy helps you at playing safety?
For the most part, but I would say Coach Hill, he's taught me so much more about the offense than I ever knew. So learning from him, offense's tendencies and what they're trying to do has definitely helped me a lot.
Okay, I've talked to Coach Guilford and other defensive backs. They've said that Coach Hill's chief strength is his ability to see stuff on film, point it out to you guys, and then you guys being able to recognize it in game. Is that true?
Yeah, he's a film guru. That dude is. We'll be watching film and he'll be like, okay, this play is either one of two things. He plays the clip. It's exactly what he says. He points out why. Then we're getting it down. I remember one morning we pulled up when we were doing film on Stanford. He pulled up an Indianapolis game when their coach was over there, and he's called out the exact play, told us everything that was going to happen, and we just watched it play out, and we're like this dude's genius. And so
how does he do it? Is just watching as much as he does?
Yeah, he watches film so much, and even when he misses little things, he'll come tell us that he's mad at himself for missing that the day before. So he watches so much film, and that's definitely the big thing that helps us a lot.
I also wanted to ask you just about the game this week against Arizona. Second road trip in the Big 12. What are you looking forward to most?
I think I'm excited to play a more passing offense. We've played a lot of heavy run teams, so it'll be fun to play a more passing offense and also just go and compete against a team like Arizona, who's probably going to be the best team we've played this year. Just to see where we're at and how we line up against them.
Did you get in last year against Arizona much?
Yeah, I had some reps in the game. But
so you've gone up against Fifita a little bit. What do you expect from him?
He's an athlete. He keeps the plays alive a lot. Really strong arm. Definitely a great leader of their offense and keeps their drives alive and gets their offense going a lot. So I expect him to come out and give his best, and really smart dude. And so it'll really just be the defense against Noah.
We were talking to Coach Papinga, and he said that this is a more complete Arizona team where he felt like they were forcing a little bit to Ted McMillan last year. Do you see that same thing?
Yeah, definitely. Last year we were definitely heavily shaded over T-Mac, but this year, when you lose a big player like that, your quarterback kind of gets to find other ways to spread the ball and make their offense not as predictable, I would say. So I would say it's almost a good thing for them, just allowing them to spread the ball a little more.
Now, there is weather rolling in, like a hurricane off the coast of Mexico that could bring a bunch of rain. Do you care about the elements? Do you care if you play in that type of environment, that type of deal?
Not really. At the end of the day, we're just playing football and having fun, so just go out there and make plays. The weather really should help us, honestly, on defense with how much they pass, and so I'm excited. The weather definitely won't affect us.
Last thing for me is, do you have to be more mindful, I guess, in a way, of your footwork in wet conditions like that to make sure you're not slipping and the like?
For sure, yeah, but at the same time, we practice a lot with our plants, and how our footwork is regardless. So, we got to be better or smarter about it, but at the same time, we've put in a lot of work for being able to just make good plants all the time.
Trust the process, right?
Yes, sir.
A big thank you once again to Falatau Satuwala and BYU Athletic Communications for arranging that interview. And I really appreciated kind of his candid thoughts on being coached by Jay Hill, talking about what he expects against Arizona and how he doesn't fret what could be to apparently over the weekend or something like that. 8 inches of rain could fall in Tucson, Arizona. I'm not sure Tucson, Arizona has seen 8 inches of rain in 100 years. Okay. I'm being a little facetious because they're up in the mountains. This was like the Phoenix area where it's a little, more desert like. I know Arizona's a desert. Spare me, but you get what I'm saying. It could be some crazy weather, but you heard him talk about the fact that they work on their footwork all the time. The expectation is you don't slip. You go out there, you don't make excuses, and you simply put, you make plays. And I love that about him because he's made plays so far this season. And I hope that he has that same type of success against Noah Fifita and the Arizona Wildcats on Saturday. Because if he has the same type of impact he's had against the likes of Stanford and Colorado, etc., that will go a long way to helping BYU get a win and stay perfect on the year at a healthy 6-0. So big thank you once again to Falatau for taking the time, and a big thank you, more importantly, to you out there in Cougar Nation for your support of this podcast. Please continue to subscribe, rate, and review, share with your family and friends. Make sure you check out everything that we've got going on every single day. And also, a reminder, coming up later today, it's the Locked On Big 12 Squad, a great time when we get together with the Big 12 host led by Drake Toll. But we have a lot of fun chopping it up, talking some smack, but also talking ball at the same time. Make sure you check that out later on this evening. It comes out somewhere in the mid-afternoon to the evening hours. I believe it's scheduled for like 3 o'clock Mountain Time, but don't quote me on that. But check that out. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review as always. And as always, thank you for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day, and come back tomorrow and be an everydayer right here on the Locked On Cougars podcast.